Well, good morning on this beautiful morning of. Let's see, we don't want that. We don't want that. Tuesday morning, April 22nd, year 2000. Let me just clear my head for whatever hair I have left. Tuesday morning, April 22nd, year 2025, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi. Continue with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and then, of course, the likes of you out there that make it your business to enhance and fortify this concept called public access. And rightfully so. And I'm saying just because life is. Okay, very good. And, rightfully so. Look around, examine your immediate vicinity, your immediate surroundings. And the immediate surrounding can be 5,000 miles away also. And see the kind of human material that 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 you bump into, that you encounter, that you interact with, that you associate with, that you communicate with, um, and see that it's all really based on the fact that you come from wherever it is that you want to come from, and that you made a decision to come from, and the destination is the destination that you chose, and that you're just going from point A to point B on the basis of goodwill and an ability to make a decision. Public access represents the code of conduct that spans from the heart of what democracy and freedom and lucky for us, the Constitution, even though many people think the Constitution is dead now or something, or just because we have this president or that president, I believe that the Constitution is allowing us to not only to function as free people, but to fantasize on the basis of that which is a surety in our lives, and that we so much so that we really take it for granted. And sometimes taking for granted, the connotation is maybe it doesn't appeal to many people, but taking for granted means that it's solid and embedded into the thick of it, the thick of reality, and therefore one can really sit back and at ease make the decisions, the required decisions at ease, and with a level of clarity and coherence and whatnot. I um, I urge you to look around, and I urge you to evaluate the implications of whatever it is that you want to weigh and whatever it is to do, that you want to make clear in your life, based on your ability to make your own decisions and to go about these decisions and to capitalize on the decisions and to feel complete, to feel safe and secured and stable throughout the process of making decisions. And when I say making decisions, as in, it will just cover the entire territory of your uh, intimate zone, all the way to the universal aspect of that industrialism, and and so much more that really encompasses the uh, the journey that we find ourselves taking and benefiting from, and maybe even influencing the world, making it a better place, or being as cliche as needed, and being as sturdy and stubborn as needed, and being as smart and sophisticated as required. All based on the fact that, for example, when I worked with some, or the early days of projects, most here at our wonderful community in East Hampton, I I worked with first graders, second graders, and I taught them in my own way, how I learned in my own. And this you're talking about 7 years old, 8 years old, young, super young. I know I have a 6 year old, so I can tell you much about that. The making that not being able to make a decision requires lots of decision making process in order to be able to find yourself supposedly not being able to make up your mind. You have to constantly agree and disagree with yourself, saying yes and no and yes to yourself constantly. Changing your mind constantly requires the ability to be able to make decisions. And those decisions is, oh, I like it, or I don't like it. Oh, I will take it, or no, I put it back. Or I put it back, I take this. Oh, I'm going to stick with the blue, I'll take the blue, suddenly I want the brown. Then I prefer the black, then I want the green. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Just like I said, I had a conversation with my friend the other day, and for some reason he claimed that he's an atheist. And I said, how can you say you're an atheist? Because you believe in something. You believe that you're not, you believe that you're not religious. You believe that you're an atheist and therefore not a religious. So you believe in something. You cannot be someone who doesn't believe in something that he must believe in order to find himself or herself not believing in it. So you think he understood what I was saying? No, he didn't. Do you think I offered him my help to explain to him maybe more meticulously and simply what it is that I'm almost sure he didn't understand? No, I didn't, because I didn't want, on top of it, people thinking that I'm condescending or whatever it is. When your life is full, you have zero tolerance for crap and for nonsense and whatever and for small talk. But how are you going to communicate with people and say, listen, you know what, I love you, but I'm tired and I need to go and take a nap, without hurting people's feelings? And it's not about me not wanting to be here with you in this moment, even though it is all about that. But it's okay to be politically correct and act in a way where you can really see yourself grasping what it is that reality offers to you, in order to be able to make the right judgment or the right calculation to make the right decision, and not to have to wait really until everything is being concluded down the road to find out whether you failed or succeeded. That you're already so sophisticated that actually when you make a decision, you know if it's working or not. Maybe even before you made that decision, but definitely if you don't, then you make that decision and you have an idea that you actually, oh, I made a mistake, or oh, it's actually going to work. Uh, in a world that ends up being the way it is now, so needy, and when I say needy for our attention, needy for our compassion. And I'm just going to stretch my legs here like it. And needy for our um so it is a reminder that on the behalf of this neediness that the world introduces or represents, there is lots of um, implications that, especially if you're an artist, it carries its artistic creative weight, so much so that it finds itself completely compatible with the needs of the world, and sometimes I think that the world is such a baby, such a, annoying, complaining, and even more so annoying baby that's just like demands what they demand, here and now, immediately. um, yeah, I want a glass of orange juice 20 minutes ago. I want to eat now. I want to be entertained now. And so you find yourself, through the transparency of the processes that you're going through in order to shape your character and your personality, to understand your relationship with the world, to understand your relationship with your immediate community, with with the background of that Mother Nature that accompanies us wherever we go, and the vividness of the colors, the um, vitality of the compositions, the integrity of the design, and then of course the whole idea of the choices that you choose to think, okay, this is how it's going to work, this is what it is that I have to make sure that I have available and ready, and this is how many avenues will eventually lead into what, at least you hope, there will be the outlet that eventually everyone will benefit from. If the world is needy and we interpret it as the world needs help or the world is in trouble, it's still one and the same. It's the nature of what it is that's available to us by way of an ability to first being able to commit on the basis of what it is that we know for a fact, that is that we um, um, possess and we have available, because we know the nature of the process and the journey, therefore we know what it is that's required from us, and on the basis of knowing ourselves and knowing that we are capable of doing it, then we carry on and we do that, because we know we've done it once or twice in the past. So, but still, the world doesn't really need our sympathy for the sake of whatever, because the world is sympathy deprived. Um, it will be on the basis of maybe you should go through your list and see how sensitive you are and how knowledgeable you are and how susceptible you are to understanding the pain of Mother Nature, the pain of this world, the amount of damage that you as a human being can inflict on the system, and maybe to understand the extent of that power that we possess. And if you realize it accordingly, then maybe be willing to and ready to make changes, the necessary changes. And those necessary changes start with reshuffling and reorganizing the psyche, the ingredients that make the psyche, your psyche, the way it is and what it's all about. And on top of it, to have a whole level of celebration that you need to maybe um, treasure. And that process of give and take is a genuine one. And it's not sufficient enough just to say I'm willing and capable and will and all that. Is to sharpen that uh, level of compatibility, especially of the situation and of the scenario and what it requires from you. And so you find yourself, in the realm of, okay, let's just say that storytelling poetry that guides you because you prefer to walk your poem through the fields instead of your dog through the fields, and you want to kind of take your aspirations and make them sound more whimsical, and you want to encounter all the metaphors and the images into the set of words slash sentences slash paragraphs uh, to really believe that there is so much to that level of innocence that you have to really treasure even what you in the not so distant past thought that you can do away with, and you don't really need it until you realize, my God, that which you um, get rid of yesterday, you have to work so hard today to regain it because you realize you made a mistake. So you want to be able to walk through the metaphors and the adjectives and the structure that grammar and a language and a style of expression allows you, and maybe even in some instances encourages you and inspires you, and all of that to say so you can accomplish the task, and especially that task that you kind of uh, guaranteed your participation and your investment of resolve and whatnot. So you want to see yourself in the thick of it because you believe that the world is really in need. And you know what? And you understand it because you know how it feels and you know how it is and when it is that it is because you went through it. And probably at the same time that you offer the world help is actually the time that you need help from the world, from people, from friends, from I remember I had a conversation with my friend that, I remember what was it, maybe a year ago or something. She purchased one of my paintings. It wasn't much. It was just a gesture. It was $300. But it was a time where I just, whatever, I admit sometimes I don't have money. I just don't have money. I have family, I have this, I have a lot, this, but I just don't. Sometimes I find myself not having money, meaning not having money to buy a sandwich or whatever, things like that. So I shared with her and I said, that day that you said, oh, I want to buy that piece and all this, and if you want to come, I can pay you, the money. And when I came and I got these $300 from you, it was like, what the heck? I'm rich. This sensation of disproportion is sometimes so real and so not what you think it is. Because otherwise, let's just say of course, if I had the money, if I had money and then I would be paid $300, I wouldn't even be contemplating that this is an occasion for celebration and exuberance and this, and but it was. So that level of appreciation is serving like an imprint, like a dent, like a stamp in my kind of first layer intimate uh, section of the early stage, the early stages of suppression. That in my case I kind of treasure because I always put it to work, put it to use, and you want to be a part of the message that goes out to the world on the account of the message that went out from the world towards you and it touched you and you adapted it and treasured it and decided to do something about it by way of participation, donation, involvement, and goodwill and cooperation and mutual understanding. I mean, that's a wonderful set of descriptions of how things should be no matter what. And especially because the world is designed in such a way that the anticipation for the creation of extra battlefields is not something out of the ordinary. And how do we um, uh, step up our reservations? And sometimes these reservations would be, second thoughts about things that maybe up to now we were taking as a given, and now suddenly saying, okay, what, I don't think it's a good idea. Um, the other day I told my child to do something. He said, why? I said, because I'm your dad, and sometimes I'd like to exercise my authority and say, okay, you leave the bedroom, you go to the living room. Why? Because I said so, and because I'm your dad, and because this. Now the thing is, it's certain things come across as just as pathetic as they would be genuine and ingenious. It depends what mood you're in. It depends what is your level of willingness to adapt and to maybe sit on it a while longer. So you give yourself a chance to understand more than just one aspect, more than just one layer. And then to be surprised. Allow yourself to be surprised. Allow yourself to find yourself surprised. And how should I say? And and then of course you find out that that which is mutual is that which works best for the we want to ensure. the longevity and the continuation of this kind of level of coherence that allows the world to exist, to survive, because you have kids, you have the next generation, and you worry about that, even though you're not going to be around anymore, probably. I mean, come on, if you're 60, 70, you're not going to be around for more than 20 years if you're lucky. And if you are going to be living up to 90 or 100, only God knows what kind of ailments you're going to encounter on your way. But anyway, that's not the point I'm trying to raise. The point is more like goodwill. And you know the I think that I learned that being an artist, especially with the multiple mediums that I'm engaged in, which is writing, music, and painting, especially with the painting, which is the most recent one. It's only like 25 years. uh, I I uh, I made so many points as I was hands on in learning about the uh, this philosophical, spiritual, emotional, religious aspect of things as I'm actually finding myself involved in this. What kind of gestures on my behalf that actually make the world feel secured, more secured and safe, and makes the world more comfortable to accept me as a as a partner. So we want to be able to draw the line. Like, for example, think about it and ask yourself what you know simple things such as a brush stroke. If you don't have kids, really, you will find it almost an impossibility to understand what a brush stroke is. What does it mean? The fact that it even exists, the the allowing, the permission that your arm has, your hand has, the brush holding hand with the dipped paint, with the drips and the gesture into the brushing against the surface is is what instigates and stands behind all these wonderful, second to none, genius creations that generations upon generations we still enjoy, benefit from, uh, value, and respect. And sometimes you look at the painting and say, "So what? So what? So someone painted this painting. Why am I supposed to be so out of myself, excited and thinking this is like a special day, special event? Let's celebrate. It's a painting." And you realize that the time that you spend standing in front of that painting is the time that you think in a way that the world thrives on, and the world, every minute you spend in front of that painting as a spectator and even as an artist is 10 minutes that the world gained by way of additional time of survival. Every attention you give to any kind of an artistic attempt on behalf of people um, enhances the chances of survival, decent survival. The world will survive, depends in what shape and what's going to be the probabilities and the chances, the odds. And once in the early stages, I always wanted to compare myself to the greats from 100 years ago. How does it feel for them to walk to their studio and know that they're going there and they're going to create. And they have all their plans all put together in their heads. They go into the studio, they open the door and they step in, and and they're aware of everything there, and they're aware what's going to be the next step and what's the act that's going to capture the creation of the day and how it falls into place as far as what was produced and created in the past and what's being created in the uh, continuing present, because I hate to say future, but the continuing present, which grabs a chunk of the future with every step that it's, even if it stands still, every step actually invites the future into the ongoing present, and that's a given also. And that's also another trick to convince the world that it's not in such a dire strait, and it's not just like it's not like as bad as the world thinks that it is. Things are still spinning, and thank God we're not aware of this spinning, because that also will be a guarantee for annihilation. But to say that we want to grab a chunk of this coherence, that we know is simple by nature, but sometimes really takes forever to gather the that which is required from the um, let's say the process itself. What is it that the prerequisites? What is it that you have to offer really doesn't interest us here. It's like what we're expecting from you is what's going to make it happen or not. And then you were offended for a little while, and then you realize, okay, fine, okay, knock yourself out. Tell me, am I qualified? Um, and then it really brings you to a point where you want to breathe freely, you want to respect the moment, you want to be a part of the moment, you want to be able to associate with that which you're just about to contribute and to be a part with, and to be aware that you're actually um, um, living the moment that you imagine, that you fantasize on, and that you work so hard to make it real, even though it deals with the fiction, it deals with the imagination and all this, but still the to experience the reality of it all. And I wrote something the other day that I would definitely um, um, yes, I wrote something, and that will emphasize the um, I'm looking for it. Let's see if I can if it can find it in my library. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm glad I found it. Okay, here it is. So that's uh, okay. I'm ready now. Here we go. Okay, so here, the road her hands remember. I mean, you're talking about some heavy duty stuff, and okay, here we go. Um, she walked where silence cracked like paint, past doors of gold and grievance faint. Her voice a brush, her steps a chord. Echo line she wrote, each line a blade, a sword. She she would speak in riddles bent from truth, reverse surreal yet sharp as youth. She called forth storms, then hushed their cry to let a single smile slip by. The frog that prayed, not prey itself, a symbol leap from inner shelf. Through public screens in sacred halls, she mirrored dreams on cracked brick walls. She painted poems, freestyle time, where random danced with perfect rhyme. Speaking of rhyme, her children's calls, Mama, Papa, rose like sacred roots from earthly prose. In her, the gap became the thread. The chaos wove what would be said. With every thought she dared not tame, she forged a truth without a name. To love her wife was not just vow, it was the way she bent the now through fire, structure, need, and grace. She built a world with quiet face. She never feared the way things land. She shaped the storm with open hand. For even rage could birth a dove, and every war could end in love. So let this tale be told in kind of one who dared reframe the mind, where children's laugh and paintings swell. They, there lives the poet you know well, where her words begin. She didn't arrive with a map in hand, just a rhyme and a rhythm. Sometimes broken, sometimes bold, that rose from her chest like a child calling out for mama in a room filled with echoes. She wrote not to escape, but to travel, to pass through grief, memory, laughter, rage, and come out cleaner on the other side. Not simple, but sharpened. Each poem was a place she'd been, and each painting a breath she held too long, and she didn't fear being misunderstood, not anymore. She had walked through that fire and learned to light her own. Sometimes her voice danced backwards, pulling images out of dreams and pushing them into sense, not for clarity's sake, but for truth. For frog, praise, smiles, breaks, a child's voice repeats like prayers, and the world rearranges to let something new in. She wrote in love, not the soft kind, but the kind that stays when everything else forgets. A wife's name tucked into the folds of everyday breath, a family held by the spine of her poems. She gave forms to chaos, not by taming it, but by recognizing its shape and calling it beautiful. There's no border between her art and her life. They exist in the same breath, the same fierce tenderness, the same unwillingness to pretend. She builds stories the way others build shelters, and in her shelters, we find something not just safely, but something else. A place to remember how deep a single word can go when you trust, when your hands are bleeding. See, that's exactly the point I was trying to stress, that a place to remember how deep a single word can go. Single word can go when you trust. Uh, um, see if I can find the other one. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Okay, very good. So the gesture behind that which we're willing to give to the world, kind of thing, it's more, it deters us only because some of us are very allergic to that which is too cliche, period. We can't um and you know what, now I'm going to turn it into, from she to we, you know maybe that would give us so they something, she used to so they used to write in the margins. In the beginning, we didn't declare ourselves. We wrote on the edges of things, on the sides of notebooks, beneath conversations, inside the quiet. Our poems came like sudden weather, unpredictable, but always from somewhere real. We weren't trying to impress, we were trying to breathe. There was a kind of violence in how we shaped simplicity, not to make it easier, but to make it alive, to provoke it, to start it down until it spoke. We often approached the page sideways, metaphor first, emotion second. Then came the reason, or maybe it never came, and what then that was the point. We were not afraid to leave gaps. In fact, we started to trust them, the missing lines. And the missing lines became part of our language, a space for the reader to arrive with our own breath. In those years, we discovered that silence has texture and repetition has memory. We loved what resisted us. We wrote into the resistance, and somehow we made it hold. Uh, and let's see. Okay. Okay. So now what happens is when you make it more like industrial or surrealistic, which is nowadays people don't even attempt to try and understand what surrealism is uh, as a style. I mean, as like André Breton, 100 years ago when he wrote his manifest of surrealism, the way he thought, was not only provoking but exciting, exciting, exciting. So we wrote inside the machinery before the language had structure, before intention had joints. We were already inside it, pulling levers and welding fragments of thought to overheated panels of feeling. There was no desk, only a rusted platform, a blinking red light, and the echo of something being made or broken. At the same time, we didn't ask for clarity, we extracted it. Like ore, ORE, from a collapsing tunnel, words arrived burnt, sometimes ash, sometimes wire. We trusted malfunction. I love that. We trusted malfunction. Let the page siege, the shutter, let meaning spill like oil in an empty lot where no one was watching. There were sparks, not the beautiful kind, but the kind that slice your vision and smell like something forgotten. We stitched lines the way a machine dreams, like repetition with error, with unexpected grace, in the grinding. Our metaphors were tools, wrenches, broken filters, a claw, and made of glass that touched something behind the obvious. And in those days, what was missing was not absence, but space for the steel to cool, for the poem to breathe smoke, for the poet to become the operator of something almost alive. And and then so to continue in the same spirit, uh, um, and now, so now we adjust the voltage. The factory still hums, but we no longer fear the noise. We move through it like someone who's lived with the sound of grinding long enough to hear the melody. Our tools are sharpened. We choose the angle of every cut. No more accidental fire. Now it's ignition by design. There's clarity in the smoke now. We don't wipe it away. We paint with it, lets it rise and coat the structure until form emerges on its own terms. Metaphor is no longer escape, it's blueprint. It's scaffolding wrapped in memory, held by bolts of commitment, each phrase measured but not contained. We leave seams exposed. Let the welds show, because honesty has texture. I love it because honesty has texture. Nice. And in the imperfections, there's proof of touch. The child's voice still echoes Mama, Papa, but now is not just a sound, it's a part of structure folded into the walls, keeping the whole thing standing when everything else wants to fall. We wrote like someone who has lost and returned, like someone no longer waits for understanding but builds it out of silence, steel, and a single persistent note beneath the static. So now, the inspiration. Let's see. It's like, what kind of a poem am I inspiring you to write? Something like that. Mm, okay, let's see. This is just an example. Okay, very good. Because you want to challenge the machine and to tell you what it thinks, not obviously not because you believe you're going to get any answer. The load-bearing breath. I love that. The load of my coffee now. Just to remind you that we're sitting here on Tuesday morning, April 22nd, year 2025, here with the Hello Hello show, and I'm indulging in being alone here. No guests this morning. I love it. Me, myself, and I, some poetry, some reservations. As we speak, we have the black and white show titled Let Alone at LTV until the end of the month. And then we're going to put a wonderful, colorful show together titled Put a Rush on It. More information and details, of course, down the road. Ooh. So, let's see. Is that it here? Okay, we got 10 more minutes. We entered through the service hatch and not the front, where the air is thick with welded vowels and something living moves beneath the floor. There's no beginning, only a low electrical hum and a coil of language, still warm from the last attempt. There's no beginning, only a low electrical hum and a coil of language. She doesn't ask the page what it wants. We lean in, elbows dusted with ash, and there's it to remember how a single syllable can break a wall. This is not a metaphor. This is a process. The gears turning are our own. The burn marks intentional, the gaps structural. Children call out from somewhere soft, and their voices fold into the ceiling, soundproof and sacred. They are why she doesn't collapse the building. We have learned to pour stillness into motion, to let repetition form the shape of permanence, to choose not the easy word, but the weight-bearing one. Love lives here, but it wears work gloves. It carries the beam. It waits by the exit until the foundation cools. Our poem does not perform. It holds, And in the dark corner, a smile flickers, not out of joy, but recognition. The machinery knows her now. And we have no need to exit. Yes, but let's just let's see. Digging deep, I'm asking. Okay, here we go. So this is the finality of it. Okay, so that's good. This is how I'm going to conclude. Okay? The hands don't flinch anymore, not when the edge curls, not when the canvas tightens like lungs after truth. Form is not chosen for beauty, form is chosen because it survives. A painting doesn't need to explain itself when the brush remembers silence and breaks it with full intention. The poem arrives already warm. It's been circling for years through talk shows and static, through synagogue walls layered in time, through the heavy pause before a child says mama or papa, like they've always known you would answer. This is not about inspiration, it's about carrying the architecture of life into every structure, the refusal to entertain what doesn't sustain the insistence or on tension as a form of love. The improvisation is not chaos, it's the evidence that something lives, that breathe, you know, that breath was there or was here. Reverse surrealism, the dream crawls backward until it hits a wall and names a truth. Not to simplify, to scrape away, to peel what pretends and reveal a beam, a child's voice, a partner's reach, a floor that holds. No one outside needs to understand. No one outside needs to understand the system of weight, WEIGHT, and want. They just need to stand in the room and know nothing is suspending. Everything is held. Uh, um, yeah, we got another 2 minutes. So I'll go to the, let's see, to the absolute okay of it. Studio transcript unlabeled. The light leads in. The light leans in, wants to touch the canvas but stops. It knows too much. The paint whispers, not again, with the narrative. Let me bleed without a figure this time. A rag on the floor remembers what was wiped away before it ever became a mistake. You walk in, but not as the artist, as the echo of every unresolved decision that finally wants to resolve. The wall isn't white, it's refusal. It holds every line that holds him in. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Made it past your. Okay, I gotta go. So anyway, That's that. So let me just conclude and say we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we're here this Tuesday morning, April 22nd, year 2025, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access. And of course, the tradition of just being who we are here at Public Access LTV at the east end of Long Island. God bless. Keep up the good spirits. We'll see you soon, sooner than you think.